Welcome back, everyone, to the After the Scales podcast presented by DJD Graphics. I'm Jacob Dove from Phenom Motorsports, along with Shaun Blight of Canadian Racing Tours. We have a really special episode today because it is our official 20th episode of our podcast, so we're really excited to have Amber BALCAEN on from the ARCA Menard series. She drives number 22 Toyota Camry for Venturini Motorsports. A fellow Canadian with Shaun was able to reach out to her. We're super excited to have her on today. Amber, thanks for coming on our podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So we recently watched you. I watched you on Flow Racing. I know Shaun was there at Schwaken Speedway. You were running the dirt. Kind of tell our viewers about how that went. It's a pretty cool event with those type of cars out on the dirt track. You had Chase Briscoe and Ken Schrader, some NASCAR legends racing against you. So tell our viewers how that went.
Yeah, it's first of all, amazing facility. Oshweken's just an incredible facility. Great fans as well. Glenn Stiers has done an amazing job with that place, and it was really cool to race there. I raced there in 2016 in a 360 sprint car for the Canadian National, so it was neat to be back. Obviously, these full body stock cars much different on dirt. The day started off pretty rough because we didn't get practice. My car wouldn't start in practice, and it took my crew a little bit to get it all working. So we started at the back of the third heat, passed a couple cars without any practice or anything. So I was happy with how the car was, considering we didn't have any practice and hadn't been on dirt in quite a few years either. So felt like we adapted pretty quickly there. But the feature time, passed a few cars the first few laps, but then kind of got into that inside wall there, which gave us some nose damage, and we ran 50 laps after that, but ultimately we ended up overheating, so didn't get to finish, which was kind of a bummer because I was having a lot of fun before that happened.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, because you did grow up with the dirt racing background, and it's only once a year that they do this, and these full-bodied stock cars on dirt. Talk about how challenging that is to drive, like how you have to adjust your driving style, stuff like that.
Yeah, you definitely have to drive those cars completely different than you would if we were on pavement. And those cars aren't necessarily meant for dirt, so they don't love the dirt. There's not a lot of traction there. The tires are really hard, where sprint cars and regular dirt tires have a much softer compound, so much better grip level there. These cars are definitely not meant for that, but that's what makes it challenging. That's what makes it fun. I enjoy it. We actually have a couple dirt races in the ARCA Menard series this season, so for me, it was really good experience to be in the NASCAR Canada series on dirt, to learn a little bit and be able to transfer that over when I go back to the ARCA series.
And going back to your start into racing, obviously your family's not familiar with racing because you're a third generation race car driver. Tell our viewers how you got your start in racing, kind of moving up through the ranks. I know that you got some opportunities in dirt racing, like you were saying, and then you moved up with the Drive for Diversity program and kind of getting that outlook into the NASCAR scene and moving into the ARCA Menard series. So kind of walk us through your journey and lead us up to where you're at now in your racing career.
Yeah, so I'm a third-generation race car driver. My mom's father raced sprint cars, is a Hall of Famer in Canada, and my dad still races dirt to this day as well. So all dirt sprint cars, dirt late models, my whole family all did dirt, so that's what I grew up racing, and started in dirt oval go-karts and then went to mini sprints and then 410 sprint cars, and I was winning quite a lot in the mini sprints and also did well in the 410 sprint cars. So that's when caught the eye of the NASCAR Diversity Combine, and they reached out to me, went and did that combine in Virginia, and that's really what opened my eyes to what could be possible for my career. Obviously, NASCAR racing isn't too big in Manitoba and not overly big in Canada, so I didn't really know how that was all going to come about. I knew I had to raise a lot of sponsorship money to be able to get racing in these types of big series and get a immigration lawyer to figure out how to get a visa to move down here. So it's definitely a process, but super grateful that I took this route. Once I moved down here in 2016, I raced late model in the NASCAR Wheel and All-American Series for Lee Pulliam. I ended up winning my first year in a stock car and became the first Canadian female to win an NASCAR sanctioned race in the USA, followed up the next year with another win and some poles. And I've kind of thought my career was going to take off after that, but unfortunately, this sport comes down to money, and so I had to raise more sponsorship. And after years and years of trying to find that, Icon Direct came on board, which is an RV parts manufacturer out of my home province of Manitoba, and they've been sponsoring me now since 2021. And now we're at a point where we get to be with a good team of Venture Motorsports in the ARC Menard series. So grateful to be here. It took a really long time to get here, to be able to get the sponsorship and the team and everyone together to make this happen.
And you're currently 7th in the ARCA Menards point standings. Big race at IRP coming up in a few days. What are your goals the rest of the season for the ARCA Menards series?
Yeah, we held the 3rd points position for the first good portion of the season, and we had the last 3 races have been really rough, which put us down to 7th. So that definitely was super disappointing. I hope that we can kind of turn it around now. We still have 11 races left, so we're not even halfway through the season. So I know that we definitely still have the opportunity to climb back up in the points ranks, and that's my plan. I think that starts with just getting some more solid top 10 finishes and moving that up to top 5 finishes, and hopefully get a win by the end of the year. That would definitely be my goal. But I just want to keep improving, keep getting better, and get out of this little hole we dug ourselves in.
And you were mentioning about sponsorship, and obviously that's a big part of your racing career. I feel like you've been really productive at marketing yourself. You do different things to reach out to race fans, reach out to businesses that want to get involved in motorsports. Kind of tell our viewers a little more insight on how you were able to get some of the partners that you have. Obviously, you mentioned Icon Direct in Canada, and then even First Form. I know I got to see First Form's headquarters when I was visiting in St. Louis.
Awesome.
Pretty cool brand. So kind of expand on that and how you were able to get some of these major companies on board.
Yeah, so with First Form, I was fortunate to get in with them 10 years ago now, before they really blew up. But for me, when I was in Canada, I knew that I had to get the attention of the people in the US, because that's where the major decision makers were going to be as far as moving me up the ranks in racing. And so I utilized social media to the best of my ability and put out YouTube videos and constantly posted, especially when I was winning races. I made sure I was posting about it, and not only posting about my results in racing, but just my love for the sport and my passion for the community of racing. And I think that really kind of helped to catch the eye of people in the US. And then from there, I've just continued to try to build on my brand and understand who I am, and trying to be as authentic as I can be, so that people can, feel that they can relate to me. I think nowadays a lot of the drivers come from really wealthy families, and it might be hard for some fans or even other local dirt track racers to really resonate with, where I come from those humble beginnings and have worked really hard to get to where I am. So I hope that I can inspire and empower other people to work towards their dreams and their goals, and kind of have that relatable aspect and of growing my brand. And the more you kind of grow your brand and are authentic to yourself, then it kind of attracts other people to want to join you. So of course I had thousands and thousands of cold calls and cold emails before I got the Icon Direct sponsor, and before I got the First Form sponsor, there was thousands of companies that I talked to that said no. But that's part of racing, part of entrepreneurship and business, is you're going to receive a lot of no's before you get that yes. I think it's just a matter of not giving up and learning along the way.
I had a different question lined up, but I want to follow up with something interesting you said, because you're talking about cold calls and emailing and how expensive racing is. I mean, it's always been expensive, but with the rising costs and everything, companies are maybe not as excited about spending the money as they maybe used to be. What advice would you give to maybe younger drivers that are looking to grow, looking to maybe promote, get higher up through the ranks and get that sponsorship?
Yeah, I think, building a brand is one very small aspect of it. A lot of people are like, oh, well, I don't have a big following, or I haven't raced a ton. And it's really not about that. Sponsorship is about the value that you can provide to a company. So something that has made my partnership very successful with Icon Direct is the business to business relationships that we've built and strengthened and helped maintain for them with other companies within motorsports that is actually going to help increase their sales. So if you can figure out what a company needs, whether it's, you know, increased exposure, increased sales, and how you can integrate your racing into their marketing plan and their marketing strategy, then that's what makes a win. But you have to approach sponsors in the way of what can I do for you instead of what can you do for me? Because if you walk up to a sponsor and say, hey, I want to race, I need $100,000 to do so, like, can you sponsor me? They're going to be like, well, what am I getting out of it? So when it comes to sponsors, it's all about what you can do for them, how you can provide value for them, how you can help their company grow, increase their sales, make them more profitable, more known. It's really about them, not about us. As race car drivers, we can be selfish. We want to make it about us, but it's not about us. It's all about how we can help other people through our racing.
And you've seen some other fellow female race car drivers. Obviously, there's a lot in the grassroots ranks, but you know, recently over the years, we've seen females like Danica Patrick move up all the way to the Cup, and then you know Hailie Deegan recently moving up from trucks to Xfinity. She recently lost her Xfinity ride. Obviously, it's hard for women to get into racing. So what is your thoughts on how you want your career path to go to? Like, are you fine with, you know, sticking to ARCA as long as you can and maybe moving up to trucks or Xfinity one day, kind of given the right resources?
Yeah, I would like to go as far as I can in racing, you know, move up the ranks for sure. But at no matter what level I'm at, I want to be competitive and I want to be in the fight. So for me, I would love to move up to trucks, but I also want to show that I can run up front in ARCA as well. So there's a lot of moving parts in motorsports. There's, you know, it's not just the driver, it's not just the team, it's not just the cars. There's so many moving parts that have to come together and be cohesive, and all of us work together to make it successful. And that's regardless if you're a male or female. You know, you can see some of the best drivers in the world, even like look at Kyle Busch, the season he's having. He's one of the best race car drivers, but not everything's adding up. Not all the puzzle pieces are coming together like it needs to right now. And that is very common for lots of people. And same with Hailie Deegan. Hailie's an extremely talented race car driver. She's a hard worker and she deserves to be in a ride. It wasn't, the equipment wasn't there. The right people weren't around her, and they didn't work as a team, and that's why they parted ways. So I really hope she gets another opportunity, because I think we need her in the sport at that level, and I hope to continually grow and hopefully one day be at that level as well. But there's a lot of moving parts to the sport that make it really challenging to get the right people around you and the right opportunities.
I've got a two-parter for you, Amber. You mentioned earlier, first Canadian woman to win a NASCAR sanctioned event. What does that mean to you? Just not only as a female doing that, but as a Canadian, and you're one of the few Canadians kind of on the big stage on a weekly basis. And what do you see coming up? You know, you were at Osh Weekend as an example, racing against Kyle Steckley, who I've chatted with a few times. Trayton Lapsevich is another. What do you see coming kind of behind you? Not just female Canadians, but Canadian racing in general.
Yeah, it's really crazy because in all 4 series of National NASCAR right now, from Cup, Xfinity, Trucks, and ARCA, we have 2 full-time Canadians. That's me and Stuart Friesen. That's not a lot. That's not a lot. There's more females than there is Canadians in sport as far as the 4 levels right now. So to be representing Canada, it's an honor to me. I'm very appreciative of it. I'm super proud to be Canadian. It's cool to race in the U.S. there, and we do have a ton of Canadian talent in motorsports, but again, it's so difficult to get those opportunities. They're so few and far between, and it's hard to get more than one of them even. But I think there's a ton of talent in Canada. It's just a matter of us getting the recognition and getting those opportunities. And I think that if the right people are behind them with the finances to be able to back it, they will go far, because there's no question that Canada has talent.
And going off the track, obviously, you're very involved with like fitness and training. Obviously, we were talking off camera to Shaun about you had a training session today. Obviously, that's a big part of being an athlete in motorsports is making sure that you're physically fit, be able to get behind the wheel of a car and be going around a racetrack for that long in that type of temperatures. Talk about kind of your routine. Maybe people at home that are watching this might not know, the day-to-day basis that a race car driver has to go through to be fit come race day.
Yeah, for sure. So usually Monday to Thursday or Friday, depending on our travel schedule for the weekend, I'll be training at the Toyota Performance Center. The cool thing about the Toyota Performance Center has a heat room that kind of helps us acclimate our bodies to the type of temperatures we'll be in the car. It can be over 140 degrees in those cars for hours on end. So we train in a room that is very close to that, and we'll train in there for an hour. So we do that once a week, and then we regular strength train and cardio train the other days. We also have Synaptech, which is a kind of cognitive training utility that we can use. We have the simulators that we can use as well. We have the TRD sim that usually since I'm the Cup guys, they'll be on about every week. The ARCA me and the ARCA people will get it on maybe a couple times a month, but that really helps us prepare for certain races, as well as looking over footage and anything else we can do to kind of prepare for the races, going to the shop, and there's a lot more to our weekly days than most people realize. But for me, the fitness is something I've always really enjoyed. It makes me feel good. I like feeling strong. And I think, naturally men are just stronger than women. They're built like that. And so I want to put twice as much effort into my strength and my training as my competitors, just to make sure I'm not, falling out of the seat at the end of the race. I want to make sure my endurance and strength level is there.
Yeah, just since you mentioned about the TRD, I feel like, between the big three manufacturers and NASCAR in general, Chevy, Toyota, and Ford, I feel like TRD has done a pretty good job at developing, grassroots racers through short track ranks and even in the dirt track ranks. How did Toyota reach out to you to be able to give you that opportunity to race for, Venturi Motorsports, who's basically a plug-in to all the other Toyota teams and the trucks, Xfinity, all the way up to Joe Gibbs Racing 2311. I feel like Toyota does a really good job with that. So share with our viewers kind of the behind the scenes with that.
Yeah, they absolutely do. They do an incredible job. And I've been talking with Toyota since 2016 when I raced late models and won with them. They had their kind of eyes on me, I guess you could say. And then when I got connected with Venturini Motorsports, it was kind of just a package deal of like, all right, like this is a good fit for Amber, good fit for TRD. And because I've been partnered with Venturini now, I get access to all the TRD resources, which has been huge. I had never been on a simulator up until this year or been able to train at a facility like theirs. The facility is incredible, and I enjoy going there every day.
Perfect. Well, we really appreciate you joining us, Amber. Very gracious with your time. Before we let you go, we always have this, our DJD Gear rapid fire segment. We just fire off 10 questions at you. Just come up with the first thing that comes to mind. And are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Most intimidating track to race at for the first time?
Ooh, Pocono.
What's your proudest racing accomplishment?
Honestly, probably raising the amount of sponsorship I've raised. That's been the hardest part.
What is the best thing to do in Winnipeg, Manitoba?
Besides hang out with my friends and family, go to Thermia, which is like this outdoor spa. I went there when I was back home last week. It's pretty cool.
What's your biggest pet peeve while driving your street car?
Oh, when people go slow in the left lane. Like, it's terrible.
It drives me absolutely up the wall bananas.
Yeah. Or I have two of them. The other one is when people stop at a yield sign. Like,
yes,
they should be yielding and they just come to a complete stop. That's also a pet peeve of mine.
See, we're an educational program and people need to know these things.
Yes.
Who is your all-time favorite Canadian singer or band?
Ooh, I'm going to say Justin Bieber.
What is the one Canadian snack food that you miss the most when you're in America?
Kit Kats. I know they have Kit Kats in the States. It's just not the same. The chocolate's different. And Coffee Crisp and ketchup chips and Tim Hortons. Sorry, I can't just pick one.
See, they're missing out. It's wild.
100%.
Favorite hobbies away from the racetrack?
It's a good question. I watch racing when I'm not racing. I don't have a lot of hobbies other than racing. I enjoy cooking, makeup, painting, but yeah, it's most of my life is racing.
All right, and this segue into the next question. What's your favorite sports to watch other than racing?
I'd say football, NFL.
And what's your team?
The Panthers. I live in Charlotte now, so it used to be Minnesota Vikings, but when I moved here, I was like, well, this is my new home, so got to go with the
Panthers. How many times have you had to explain how your last name is pronounced?
A lot. A lot.
And last one, if you could offer one piece of advice for a young female racer, what would that be?
It'd be to take gender out of it completely and just focus on being the best race car driver you can be.
Well, those are definitely some great responses from Amber. We really appreciate her sharing some time with us to talk about her racing career. We had some great conversations, and we look forward to watching Amber out on the Arkham Mard Series tour and any other dirt races that she has coming up off of the main trail. And make sure to follow Amber on her social medias. And I forgot to mention, if you look over by Shaun's head, you can scan the QR code and you can check out all of Amber's gear and buy some merchandise of hers. So, Amber, we really appreciate your time, and we wish you good luck.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
So thank you again to Amber for coming on our podcast. We really appreciate your time. We wanted to take a little time at the end of this podcast episode, since it's our 20th episode. We're really excited to thank all the people who have come on so far. We've had a lot of drivers who have came on our podcast and end up winning either once or multiple times after coming on. So we hope Amber can have that same luck. I wanted to talk about a little bit this past weekend on Saturday. I was at the Citrus County Speedway in Inverness, Florida for the super late models on the asphalt. It was a crazy night of racing. There was a lot of classes. One of our Phenom Motorsports drivers, Tyler Landis, he was driving two classes. He ended up finishing fourth in one of them. It was a really hot night. I think it got a lot to the drivers in their head. In the late model race, we sponsored lap 39, and then for the After Scales podcast, we sponsored lap 100. So that was a pretty cool opportunity to market ourselves. And the racing itself was pretty crazy. The late models were battling out. There was some really good side-by-side action for the lead. But until one point, there was an oil spill out on the track. One of the cars leaked oil, and the whole field about wrecked.
The big one.
That's pretty crazy. I thought Ricky Bobby was going to have to get out of the car and run across the line or something, but it was something I'd never really seen. And as many races that I've been to, I've never seen anything like that. But luckily, there was a couple cars left in the field that finished the race. And after the race, there was a fight, to just cap it off of a crazy feature event. But it was really cool sponsoring it and giving back to some of the drivers who were attending. So that was my Saturday. It was a long drive there and back, but I really had a good time, at the racetrack as usual. And I'll pass it over to Shaun because he was at the races too at Sharon Speedway with the World of Outlaws late models.
Yeah, I went to see the Bobby Pierce show for 2 consecutive nights. The guy, it happens in dirt racing, especially where a guy just gets in the zone, and that's Bobby Pierce, because the first night he fell back to 4th and ended up passing Ryan Gustin, I think about halfway through, and then he was gone. And then he started 4th or 5th on Saturday night, and same thing, just passed Shepard and Dennis Erb, and he was gone again. So great racing though at Sharon. The track was in great shape. I think some rain the days before, or earlier in the day on Saturday, helped out. Great battling, passing throughout the field. So yeah, it was cool to see the late models, and good car counts, 30 cars plus each night. So that was cool. And then, this week, tomorrow, weather permitting, although it's not looking very good right now, I'll keep checking, is the Brad Doty Classic at Attica Raceway Park, which I'm scheduled to go to. I'm just going to kind of wait and see what they say tonight. And then after that, Eldora, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. The good news is the weather looks fantastic at Eldora for the next, for those 4 nights. I don't see any rain in the forecast. There's a small chance on Wednesday, but that's it. It's like 0% or 10% chance for the rest of the days. So usually you get Eldora bank on it, and it's knock on wood, looking like that might not happen this week. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, pretty exciting for sure. There's going to be so many sprint cars that turn out, of course, every year. It's a huge event. So definitely looking forward to watching that, and hopefully everything holds off, weather permitting. And I always say to anybody who knows me, I hate the R word, the ARAIN. Nobody talks about that on race day, or else I blame it on them. So hopefully it holds out. And
a special shout out before we go, because you did mention if a driver comes on our podcast, they win. Within a couple weeks, Darren Dryden, who sponsors this podcast, we do have to shout him out because I was chatting with him on my way back from Sharon on Saturday. He was really excited. He got the win at South Buxton. He was up against the Great Lakes Super Sprints. So the Southern Ontario Sprints, which is the Touring 360 series here in Ontario. They've got a couple of these challenge races where they go up against the Great Lakes Super Sprints, which mostly race in Michigan and Ohio. And our local Canadian guy represented and defended home turf, and that was really cool. So congrats to Darren.
Yeah, definitely excited. One of our most recent episode guests, and obviously a big supporter of our podcast. So we're really excited that he got the win. And make sure you go to Darren Dryden 12 on Instagram. He just posted his in-car camera view of him.
Yeah, that was cool.
That's pretty badass. So
yeah.
So we appreciate everyone for watching this special episode 20, and we look forward to all the next guests that we have on. So stay tuned. Make sure to subscribe. We're getting closer and closer to 100, so we might be doing a giveaway. So make sure to like and share with anyone that you know, and we really appreciate all the support.
After the Scales is proudly presented by DJD Graphics. From commercial and personal vehicles to racing bikes and cars of all makes, models, and disciplines, DJD Graphics can fully customize your vehicle to suit your needs. For more information, contact Darren and visit his website at www.djdgraphics.com. Tell him Shaun and Jacob sent you to receive special rates.